Carpe diem.
Sitting in a 4v3.
Everfrog Esports trying to find the angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll. We're gonna take flag. See why it's gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. all of this competition could be so damn close. So I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
The beast mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so gonna clear it out. Sanji gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Oh, Sanji's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Sanji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Soccer Party is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick on the Leaky. You're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. They just to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Lana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio. That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here. It is a little late here on this Friday night, but that doesn't mean we can't bring you some nice Overwatch action in the 7th week here in the regular season. So for a lot of these teams, only 2 more matches left to play. And Shadowfang, in a lot of these situations, teams are fighting for the opportunity to get into the playoffs or playing for seeding. But if we're talking today between Oops All Vive and the Tormenting Tentacles, today is all about pride because both these teams, unfortunately, are still seeking that first infamous win. And at least for one of these teams, they will be able to achieve that glory here today.
Yeah, and I mean, at least theoretically, you have to say that this is going to be your best chance to get that win. Neither team having a win so far. The Oops All Vibes has come close a couple of times. They were in a 5-mapper with BGSU, I believe it was. Really close match that one was. Tormenting Tentacles has had a much tougher time so far, but I'm just really curious to see if they're going to be able to keep up with Oops All Vibes tonight.
Yeah, definitely going to be curious to see how it's going to go down. And obviously, these teams very much have figured out the style in which they want to try to do these bans. Obviously, whether it has had success or not is obviously up for debate, but Tormenting Tentacles will be able to decide first and foremost in the situation. In Shadowfang, normally when we get into the situation, you may just try to ban something out, whether it's in terms of protection or just something you're not comfortable going against. And in this situation, it's going to be Genji. So now for Oops All Vibes, they must pick a tank or a support instead.
And yeah, with the Genji going down, it must just be a pick that Tormenting Tentacles don't want to deal with. I mean, it makes sense. Just get that out of the way. Let's try and have a game where we ain't got to deal with that. And then we're seeing the Ram come out. Makes sense. Ram is really strong right now that there's no Malga to really counter that pick out anymore. So yeah, that pick totally makes sense to me as well.
100% agree in this situation. Everything considered very fair to get things started in the situation, especially knowing we are going to go to a control where most controls, Ramatra are typically going to be a strong character, got a lot of versatility from the Genji in the situation. And of course, got to take a look at these teams here as a little bit of the copy and paste going on over in this situation before us. But either way, gonna go through in this situation as Strider and no one named Jeff hanging around on the DPS. Again, the copy and paste over on the tank, but you go. Got Zach and Kalo hanging out on support. And again, it's very much a situation where this is a team that, to be fair, has had little bits of success, has had the ability to fight very hard against teams, but unfortunately coming close a couple times, but not able to actually fully realize that win.
Yeah, they've come very close quite a few times. And over here for the other side, we got the Tormenting Tentacles roster. We got Vin Siri and Frog on that DPS line. Das Gruff running that tank with Vixian and Flaminos. I wanted to say Flamingos so bad. Flaminos for that support line.
I'll be honest, I wanted to say flamingos as well. I probably would have as well, but obviously a lot of the characters on here are very unique. We talked very briefly. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, one of these teams might be a ball team. It's gone from unlikely to very possible. Now, see whether or not that's going to be the case, because Ramacho can sometimes be a good tool to shut down the ball, just because you can pull them down when they try to go through for their pile drives. But either way, it's something that's going to have to be seen in this situation, because obviously that this first map is where typically teams are able to really experiment with what they want to do. Teams at this point obviously have a fairly good idea of what they believe they're good at and what they're comfortable running, but every game is about adaptation. It's all about learning as it goes along, because I've been in that situation many times before, where the thing you're running at the very beginning just is not working, and you have to just make something work from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for map number 1 in particular, I mean, I feel like these teams are going to err more towards a brawl composition, just because it's going to be simpler. You're going to allow everybody to clump up and just all kind of run at the same target. It's going to be a lot easier to pull off than a ball composition would be. But at this point, it wouldn't shock me to see really much of anything, especially with two 0-6 teams here tonight. You kind of just need to throw something at the wall and see what sticks. And as soon as something really starts working for you, just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, definitely going to see if the adaptation comes into play. But of course, with the team scrimming this week, very much know what maps are going to be competing in, because during the regular season, those first 5 maps are very much locked in place ahead of time, so teams are able to practice what they are going to be playing. And of course, as you might be able to tell from our lovely background over here or over here, wherever you desire to look, Antarctic Peninsula is going to be our first map to get things going. And Shadowfang, we talked about that brawl already. If we're talking about a brawl-oriented map, this is definitely something that has to be in that conversation. I think, honestly, no matter what subpoint you're on.
No, absolutely. And it kind of is the case on most control maps, but with Antarctic in particular, you can get away with a lot of brawl comps. You can even, with as strong as May is right now, I think you can get away with the Rhine, since the Ram isn't available. And that is an option you can have. You could run the Orisa in a brawl-ish style, because Orisa does just kind of exist in the general direction of people and they die. So that's another option for you here. And like I said, I think May has some of the best perks in my opinion right now. You're getting your primary fire increased by, what is it, like 30-something%? Like, that range buff is insane for her primary fire.
Yeah, it 100% is. And at this point, I think a lot of players have gotten comfortable with the perks and have kind of gotten to understand them a little bit better. So at this point, obviously, the more comfortability there is, more understanding it is, the better you're able to kind of pair together these perks and realize what's going to work. Because when we looked at the long list of perks when they first got released, some were obviously very good, some obviously not quite as helpful. But obviously, going to see how much that's going to come into fruition here today at Antarctic Peninsula. Going to be the map to get things started. Of course, Paraíso and New Queen Street await us afterwards. And if we need to go to New Junk City and Junkertown, obviously those maps will be sitting by just in case. But I mean, if we manage to go through the whole maps in this situation, we're to see what should be a large plethora. As Shadowfang, we're not going to hold back anything at all, as we are very much into things to get started out the gate. And as things are right now, Tormenting Tentacles very much seem to have themselves in a fair position having the point, but unfortunately we'll get forced off and just gonna have to go and watch Frog escape as 27% to get them started here.
Yeah, and it looks like we're seeing a Zarya comp going into an Orisa comp. That's a tough ask for Dasgruff to try and stay alive through just all that damage that's going to be coming out between this Reaper and this Zarya, and Amp Matrix already up for Oops All Vibes.
Yeah, 100% hack gonna come through right now, but Striker has a lot of the team sitting by ready to help them out in the situation. And Frog, unfortunately, spamming all the way through. It's going to become a bit difficult because Strider right now sitting at 100 charge. It's going to be really difficult for anybody to do anything. You're just going to see people get chased down one after another support. It's basically falling apart. Right side is 5 ultimates coming around the corner for both teams, so this is going to be a heavily invested fight coming up here. But for Fensiri, that EMP should realistically be the most important ultimate.
No, absolutely. And if you're Zach and Flamino here, you have to play this fight incredibly well and not get caught out by some of these ultimates to get that beat off.
Yep, beat gonna come through. A lot being invested already. Frog could be the first one to go down here. Named Jeff over on the Venture in the situation, but unfortunately for Strider, they have gone down right now, but Striker has gotten the 2K, gonna clear things around, and while we are seeing the picks still kind of fly back and forth, we will see the Tormenting Tentacles have to hit the retreat button as gotta now set up for what could potentially be the final fight of this round.
Yeah, we are getting close to last fight territory here. A lot of ultimates still available. Got the Tectonic Surge as well as the Amplification Matrix, and then you have the EMP, the oh-so important EMP available for Vincere here.
Yeah, you saw right there, Strider looking for the ability to get that bubble up online, as body's going to go and drop to kind of defend the point. And importantly, Vixen going to get taken out before they can manage to get away. EMP going to come out online here. It's going to result in at least one pickup, but unfortunately, nothing more than that. So for Ubis All Vibes, have a bit of a rough fight at the very beginning, but handled the EMP, rolling as though, use the ults when they need to, get away with a nice first round here. Honestly, this is what we expected out of them in this situation. They have had still a fair amount of success without having an actual win. So, again, this is about what I expected to see from them to get things started.
No, absolutely. They did a really great job of just cycling their ultimates right there. And Tormenting Tentacles just not really quite knowing when to engage and where to engage with their ultimates right there. You know, not holding on to the Orisa Spear for the Death Blossom kind of cost them a good bit there because they had the advantage in that fight. They just didn't stop the Death Blossom from Striker, and that was really the nail in the coffin for that fight. Otherwise, it really could have went their way. I like seeing Frog swap over to the Mei here, though. I think it's going to help this comp play a lot more aggressively.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to run that Junkrat over into the Zarya. Obviously, basically feeding charge over in that situation. That's never good in that situation. But going here, Strider going to go having that Sigma this time around, and obviously having a fair amount of success right out the gate already, as Tormenting Tentacles can be forced around in this situation. And honestly, they're doing what they can in this situation. Dasgrub is basically spitting into No My Name Jeff every single time they go for the dig. It's interrupting them, but they're not really taking advantage of these small things that honestly they could be using to find an early pick.
Yeah, there's just these minor moments where they could potentially get a kill, and they're just not really managing to find much of anything. And Strider just putting in this constant poke on this Sigma, and here it is, the moment you were waiting for. The Wrecking Ball is out now. We got a Wrecking Ball Mei Sombra composition with a Lucio Moira. Everybody's trying to do something different here, so this is going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is going to go because, you know, you got Shredder who can, you know, hit them with the accretions. Zach could whip them away. Kala who can sleep them. They're going with a power drive, and ultimately the hack combo is going to work out, at least for the moment being, with Striker going down. But unfortunately, Dasgrub doesn't really have a whole lot of care. Vincere just kind of has to stick around in the middle. Unfortunately, that's going to result in another fight lost here. And honestly, I don't hate the fact that they have the Sombra and the ball. That is a great combination, but
Yeah.
there is better ways to utilize it with the rest of your party.
You almost have to run like a Tracer Sombra at this point if you really want to try and get in somewhere. Just try and get one of these backliners, because Zach and Caliho feel almost unpressured. They're just kind of sitting back there existing for free, and you're going to have to do something to them to stop them from just being alive so often.
Yeah, Shredder, though, is getting a ton of pressure. Obviously not able to stop all of that aggression from the man in that situation, but getting hit with that nano definitely is a great start there to be able to kind of survive in the situation. With 80% already on the board right here, it's going to enter a desperation situation right now. Vincere trying to survive to be able to get that EMP on the board. Currently sitting at 93% and counting right now, and it's all about living to set up those touches right now. You're not realistically winning the fight right now, but a touch needs to be set up right now. But Dasgrub is going to have to be the one, but unfortunately, they're kind of just sitting out in the open trying to get something online, and Shadowfang, they're at least going to get the touch right now, but now this EMP has to come through, try to find something right now, but unfortunately, I mean, they're going one at a time, but they gotta find something here, but the beat comes online, and Shadowfang, unfortunately, they have thrown everything into it, and at this point, Upsal Vibes looking to potentially try to close this one out, and you know what? Chaos is going to keep ensuing regardless of what happens, but at the end of the day, you have the tank solidifying down, and eventually, it's gonna reign supreme.
It is eventually going to go. Wait a minute, here come minefields. Hold on. What is going on at this point? Either team? No, it's okay. That's gonna be it then. I think Oops All Vibes has it.
Yeah, you know, eventually, you know, no Lucio to make it back. The Moira might be able to get a retouch right now. Coalescence is there to keep them up. I mean, I appreciate the fight going back in, trying to make something happen, but Vixian comes back and pretty much gets instantly deleted, and there's no touch afterwards. So a good fight there at the end to try to make it happen, but Oops All Vibes very much going to take that first map very dominantly so in this situation. And I'll reiterate my same point. I like what Tormenting Tentacle are trying to do in the situation. I think Summer Ball is a great combo, but doing it with like the, you know, Lucio Moira and the Mei, I don't think is the right combination.
No, it needs to be more of a like put together comp almost. Like this might sound silly, but I think you almost run the classic Brig Zen. If you feel really strong with the Zenyatta, just sit back in the back, throw some discords on some people, have your Tracer Sombra run at somebody, you know, just hit the pile driver, discord that person, they should insta delete. But that's a tough comp to make work well, especially with the Brig Zen. It's such low healing, and it's very hard to pull off.
Yeah, you could also very much go classic with the Brig Ana composition, mainly because that Brig Ana obviously very successful in being able to care for each other. So even if they do get pressured out, there's still a situation where they can care for each other and kind of keep things working that way. But it is the question of whether or not we're going to see that adaptation. Obviously, there's the room from adaptation through the bans that'll be coming through shortly. Obviously, Tormenting Tentacle is going to be able to get the opportunity to ban first and foremost, and obviously banning out the Mantra, or more so banning out the Genji last time around. So I'm curious what you would want to take out in this situation, because it feels like there was a couple of threats, but it's one of those situations where I don't know if you have a specific hero you would want to ban more so than maybe one you would want to protect instead.
Yeah, that is a tough ask. Like you said, maybe they want to save the ball. That's a potential where you could go for another tank ban, maybe ban out a Winston or a Diva. We are going to Paraiso, where you're probably going to have to run a dive comp of some sort. I feel like ball is going to be really hard to work on that map with how tight everything is. You got to be like very exact with your pile drivers, landing on these high grounds and whatnot. But you could go for like a Diva, like a sort of Winston, something to that effect. Or if you thought that maybe like the Sojourn was really popping off on that last map, you could ban the Sojourn here, because it didn't look like they were really wanting to play that hero, but Oops All Vibes is probably going to play that hero again.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Obviously, on Paraiso, having a character like that Sojourn and be able to kind of just move around the high grounds very freely does kind of open up a really good opportunity to get a lot of value from that, just like you would get that value from something like the Ashe as well, which also, you know, very much a possibility to see come out here in the situation, especially in a defensive setting. But with all of this happening, I'm also curious of what Oops All Vibes is going to decide to ban as well, because I think in terms of the maps that we have still sitting by, at least for like the foreseeable future, you're going to go into a situation where you have New Queen Street and New Junk City. At least in terms of New Junk City, definitely not what I would consider a ball map. New Queen Street, you can make it work, but in the same realm where you can make it work on our peninsula, you could do it, but I don't know if it's necessarily the best call in terms of what is available to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. There's very few maps in the game that are like truly ball maps, if you will. But if that's the comfort pick, then I'm sure they'll eventually try and ban it if you're Oops All Vibes. But otherwise, I would think maybe you can go for like a Sombra or something if the DPS is available. But again, it's all really going to hinge on what is Tormenting Tentacles going to go for first. My final vote is going to be Diva. That's my final guess. I don't know if that's what it's going to be, but that's my final guess.
If I had to guess one, I guess I would say Sigma. Also, because obviously the Sigma was doing a lot, and at that point you can't ban the ball. But it turns out the Sojourn we talked about earlier ends up being the selection. So we should have. We should be smarter than this. But obviously, same scenario as before. Have to pick a tank or a support if you're Oops All Vibes, and It wouldn't surprise me the slightest if they decided to just try to kill the ball here now, because I think out of the next 3 maps, this would probably be the one to work the best. But no, they target the Moira specifically, which is interesting. I don't hate it though by any means. It's a Moira at the end of the day. A Moira
Right.
can just do things to a weird level of independence as well. So I don't blame them for banning. Also, it takes them off of that comfort hero as well. So honestly, I think I support it.
I was gonna guess Brig for, just the reason of they think their dive is better. Therefore, they could just go for a hard dive and their dive would win out eventually. But I do like that. That is a specific target ban. And that's kind of what you like to see with bans being a thing. It's like, okay, we saw you play Moira all of last map. No Moira. What are you gonna do now? I like that.
Yeah, gonna see if it's gonna have any impact. Obviously, Mara also kind of gets this cool opportunity to also kind of usually get around to the high grounds all the time, especially look at that third point high ground. You very much can just go from the cart and zip right up there. And if there's a fight going up there, you are immediately involved in that situation, but not going to be the case here for Moira or for Sojourn for that matter. So I think this is one of those opportunities where we really get to see something like maybe the Ashe, maybe like that Kiriko, maybe that Brig and Ana making their appearances as well. I think are very likely shouts. I think having the Sigma back out here would be very nice as well, especially considering that you might be walking back into that ball. And obviously, as we saw from previous examples, the Sigma was doing a fantastic job of simply shutting down the ball every time they came in.
I mean, if you want to get really crazy, we could go Torb here too, because I think Torb is actually solid at the moment. So like that is something that, since Sojourn is unavailable, I think that is an option that you can have here. Especially if you're running that defense and you're going to go the Sigma on defense, you can just throw a Torb, have a turret in like the most absurd location possible. Everybody's got to turn around and look at it. Oh my goodness, it is so irritating when you have to just find this turret in these random spots now because of the perk.
Yeah, I've been in that situation where I'm like, where is that turret? And then I look up, I'm like, that's where that's where it is. That's where I'm getting shot from. But I honestly agree. I think Torb's in a great place, everything considered. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest to see it on a map like Paraíso, again, especially in a defensive setting. But again, it's just something we're going to have to see in this situation right now. I would love to see Tormenting Tentacles be able to kind of fight back in this situation and make something happen. It's a question of whether or not we actually will see that as we are ready to get into Paraíso, where normally that dive and that poke does reign supreme. Not really going to see the brawl here, with the exception of sometimes you make that adjustment for a third point if you get to that third point situation and if things just aren't going your way anymore.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Oops All Vibes is going to opt for in terms of an entire composition, because I'm personally of the belief that Winston is the best dive tank in the game. I'm just one of those people. I would love to see a Winston come out right now, but I know a lot of people love locking that diva as well.
Man,
and here it is. There it is, the Torb. I knew it. I knew it was coming. The Torb's here.
Honestly, I think we might just both be geniuses. I think we made up for the whole hero ban situation just now. Honestly, we get the Sigma and we get the Torb. And in fact, you know what? I'll take my credit. I named all these heroes. I'll say it. I'll be the one to say it. But either way, gotta figure out their own theory here. Zeri's staying over on the Sombra. I honestly like it, and probably on the Diva. Again, I don't hate it either. But again, everything has to kind of synchronize, and what we're looking at right now is not what I would particularly call synchronized.
I think Bap's kind of the odd one out here. You would almost want, I think, an Ana or a Kiriko instead here. And I have a hard time finding who Mercy's going to be damage boosting as well with this comp. Wow. And Vin Siri already down, but you get the trade.
That's a very bad trade, all things considered right now. I don't hate going for the kill in that situation, but unfortunately, you still get hacked out, you get deleted, and now since you got Charming over here in on the Mercy, Terminating Tentacles are just gonna pretty much take this one away without any fight back whatsoever. So, I mean, this is the best possible start you could have had.
Yeah, no, if you're Tormenting Tentacles, this is exactly what you wanted to see. That virus death from beyond the grave was just such a gift. It was such a beautiful gift. And now here you are. Oops, all vibes. You're on the back foot now. Now you're kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We weren't ready for that. No ultimates on the board yet for either side, but this poke comp is going to have a much tougher time. I say that, and now Vincere goes down immediately. So.
Yeah, it's not the biggest issue. The card is going to stop self-pushing here any moment right now, but if there's something Strider has noticed already is that Strider can't move too far forward because they will just get deleted. That is just how it's going to go down. The sports have to stay up over on the high ground, so they have to respect the space to a degree and wait for the right opportunity to come through. That's going to likely come off the fact of either Frog being knocked out of the mech or simply getting Vincere forced out of the fight. But not only does Striker get taken out, but also Vincere is going to stay alive and get an opportunity to get things going right now. DM going to be able to keep things alive for the time being as Strider experiencing what might potentially be a little bit of pain as we're going to see the Ant Matrix being used right now. It's not going to result in any deaths, but it is going to take a ton of space and eventually will result in a bit of a trade coming through in this situation right now. Body's getting forced around, and for the time being, things looking great right now, but going in for this dive right now, we got White Flare going in, making some things happen, but right now, Striker and Strider have no interest in giving up this point.
The Gravitic Flux comes out somewhere in the middle of that too from Strider. Not exactly sure where, but the fight is still going on point. Frog taking down Striker is huge.
Yeah, and now Bomb's going to come online right now. There is very much Rock ready to go, but the Mercy takes the Rock. Get down, and Mr. President comes through. Ring and Pink comes through. Catches on to 3 bodies, but none of those 3 bodies have gone down quite yet right now. You have White Flare still waiting for the opportunity to go in, does have a Death Blossom, but right now it is a big risk to go in with. But honestly, you know what? Ultimate's down there somewhere. I think you take a shot at this and see what happens as you are going to get your diva back in here for the DM. You're looking to go through, going to send it out. Unfortunately, there's nothing waiting for you there. Nothing but death right now. Vincere very much doing a really good job of keeping the team alive. But Striker very much, again, does not want to lose his point. And with Frog being knocked out of the mech, that's going to scare them holding on for the time being. So you get out a bunch of ultimates, you kill a bunch of clock right now, but there's still a long way to go.
And I mean, honestly, the best part there for Oops All Vibes, they don't use that Transcendence. So now they have essentially a free Transcendence because there's no ults really getting close for Tormenting Tentacles. You have a whole Transcendence available to you. Strider's about to get this Gravitic Flux. You don't have a defensive ultimate. You have the Immortality field that can help you out, but you don't have a defensive ultimate to really deal with this Gravitic Flux at all.
Yeah, and Vincere unfortunately gets found out at the end of the day, so that's not gonna be a very, good situation. But I guess with this next fight, what you would really want to try to utilize is honestly giving a lot to simply just going and attempting to take out the Zenyatta, or just forcing out the Transcendence and then pulling back and then EMP next fight. But either way, I believe we have a technical difficulty or 2 there for a moment, but we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to player away here, as it looks like they're still taking a bit of a reset, but Vincere getting very much closer to that EMP.
Yeah, very, very close. EMP almost online. And we're black screening again, folks. So we're gonna have to figure that out before we can continue on with that map.
Okay, yeah, but honestly, again, this is still one of the best starts you could have hoped for if you're Tormenting Tentacles. Amazing first fight. The second fight ends up being really good as well. You kind of go in for this big fight when you get to that second point, checkpoint. Unfortunately, I think there was a bit of a misutilization of some of these ultimates. EMP catching on Th3, but unfortunately nobody going down. The Death Blossom, that was pretty much in the middle of everybody, but unfortunately it wasn't you are here and the bodies are here. It was the Reaper was here, that person was over there, that person was over there, and that person was back here. It's a unfortunate situation, but I mean, 3.5 minutes still on the clock. I mean, there's still a lot of time to work with here.
Yeah. It was really just a moment on the last EMP where if one other person was back there with Vincere, probably both supports go down, but Jeff taking down W Flare early is going to be tough.
Yeah, and we have seen a lot of that time already kind of leak away as been waiting for a hot minute right here, but this is where we kind of analyze how things have changed right now. About to be 3 ultimates online for Oops All Vibes. I mean, at the very least, you got a couple of fine ultimates for Tormenting Tentacles, but nothing that can really change the game too easily.
No, the best thing you've got here, honestly, is probably the Valkyrie to try and build up all the other ultimates with the damage boost. That's probably going to be your best bet. But you're dealing with a Bob, a Molten Core, and a Gravitic Flux. And like I said previously, you don't have a defensive ult for the Gravitic Flux, so that could easily finish the people off.
Yeah, and now, wow, that is not a great situation right now. And now everyone needs to just die. The bomb's going to be used on the point right now. It's going to somehow get rid of one right here, as Striker's going to go for what will be the killing blow in this situation right now. 15 seconds on the clock. Daskarov is just going to have to go to Lucio to try to touch, which is not going to be easy.
If there's a touch here, W Flare has Death Blossom. There is nothing available to stop this Death Blossom either. This could be the redemption moment for earlier. Oh, Daskarov going down early.
Oh, that is interesting to be able to get there in time, and now they're going to get there, and you just got to pull the trigger and go for it. Unfortunately, I mean, just it was such a great start for them, and it's a really unfortunate situation. This is where it will eventually come to an end. Yes, they have bodies hanging around. Unfortunately, you still got all 5 from Usopp Vibes. Everybody's hanging back on high grounds, way in the back line. There's really nothing you can do in the situation, but eventually take out Daskarov and be able to stop things then and there. So for Usopp Vibes, you have to be extremely satisfied with this, and for Tormenting Tentacles, I mean, compared to the start you had, I mean, that can't be anywhere close to what you were desiring.
No, and I really do think it was that one EMP from Vincere. You catch both the supports, but you're the only one back there to shoot them. And you just, Zach and Caliho should have both went down to that EMP, but there was just not the coordination and follow-up for it. That should have been the moment they capped second. But once that went away, Oops All Vibes started ult cycling and getting those early picks every single fight, and Tormenting Tentacles just was never able to recover.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation, but that does not mean that it's an impossible task to still hold on here. They showed they can win some good fights, and at the end of the day, still got to make an attempt and try. But Vincere, over on the Symmetra, is a very interesting situation. I think in some respects, you know, if you try a sim on a map like this, it could work. Could is very much the operative word here, but if it doesn't work right away, it needs to be swapped instantaneously.
No, absolutely. Like first death, if it's an early death, even you got to get off this character pretty quickly. I like it into the Genji though. The turrets can be irritating for the Genji, but Strider being on that Winston probably is going to be able to take those turrets down pretty quickly. I'd have to imagine, but I guess we'll just have to see how this more classical dive looks with the Tracer Genji.
Yep, 100%. Obviously, hoping for a good start if you're a Tormenting Tentacles fan. Both teams hoping for that infamous first win, as Vincere is going to get hard pressured right now, but eventually Strider got to be forced out in this situation. Obviously, you don't want to lose your tank super early on. It pretty much kills a fight's momentum right then and there on the spot right now, but unfortunately, with Tormenting Tentacles being pushed out from this high ground, Vincere isn't going to have the care, and we Shadow Fang, unfortunately, might be having ourselves another quick first point here, and first point looks great. Unfortunately, it looks like we're moving on from it pretty quickly here.
It does look to be that way, unless hold on, W Flare taking down My Name's Jeff. There might be something here. Hold on.
Yeah, I guess the chickens have all not came out of the eggs quite yet in this situation, but with Frog going down, things very much beginning to fall apart. Vincere has made it back onto the point now, though, and if they can get at least one here in the situation, it could be an experience. Could be something you go for, as they're going to go and TP over far away, but White Flare's been taken out right now. Unfortunately, Vincere all on their lonesome, and with that, I imagine the switch should come through, but everyone else staying wouldn't surprise me, but the Reaper swap comes through. Vincere, though, needs to swap as they're going to try to touch. This is just, I mean, I don't hate the stall, but at the end of the day, this is not a winnable fight by any stretch of the imagination.
You get the pulse bomb out at the very least, but yeah, it's like you said, that's probably a situation where you should just back up, try and play for the next fight, just to really get good positioning for the next fight. Now, you kind of allowed Oops All Vibes to build up to those ultimates that they were close to, but now they have in the Primal, very close on the Blade. You have the Sound Barrier and the Kitsune Rush. I imagine they're probably going to engage early with this Kitsune Rush as well.
Yeah, it looked like Vincere was debating on what to swap over to in this situation. I think there's quite a few good choices, honestly. Honestly, a weird shout here. I think Pharah is a great choice in this situation. No super dedicated hit scan besides the Tracer in the situation to really hone in on you in this situation. It could work out pretty well because right now there's a lot of progress being made by Ubisoft Vibes without having to really spend anything right now as Am Matrix going to get used in this situation. Bit of macro positioning as the bomb's going to come alive right now, hoping to find something, but unfortunately not anything on the remake either. Be going to be utilized and just going to try to run down Tormenting Tentacles down in this situation. Is a rough scenario to be in right now, obviously, as White Flare not able to get out too easily in the situation. Everybody getting super low, and even with the Valkyrie out there, everybody's falling one after another as they just have to try to die on this point or try and force their way out, because right now things are not looking good.
No, it definitely is not. You probably would rather get out here if you're Frog, because now you're not going to be involved in this last fight that's upcoming. I mean, you're basically right here at the checkpoint already if you're Oops All Vibes. So, like, I have to imagine they're going to get very close to finishing this map right now.
Yeah, obviously we will see here momentarily. Is again just taking care of some issues, but we can still vaguely hear things from time to time. But it's very much a situation where Ubisoft Vibes was pretty much one fight away from winning that. And Shadowfang, I think it's a situation where I think they've already kind of taken it away and gotten it taken care of. Unfortunately, just Tormenting Tentacles not able to make it back in time to do anything. Again, a great start for them. Just unfortunately, I just folding apart, unfortunately. So it's just I don't know. It's just an unfortunate situation.
Like I said, it was really just a little bit lack of coordination. And I keep pointing out that one EMP, but it was right there for the taking. You caught the Ana and the Zen and the EMP. If you had just a little bit more follow up with it, you would have got both those kills and probably capped second. And we're looking at a totally different map at that point, because you would more than likely you have shook Oops All Vibes in some capacity if you just steamrolled them through points 1 and 2 just effortlessly like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate situation. I think in the situation, if I'm the diva and I have my bomb ready, I am more than happy to throw away my mech to go in there and be able to help clean up the support line, because ultimately giving one extra ultimate to ultimately win a fight or help your chance of winning, obviously always worth it. But either way, Shen of Fang is about that halftime situation right here. So we're going to cut it to a bit of a break. But of course, the match isn't over quite yet. Tormenting Tentacles beginning to show those little signs of success. Going to see whether or not any remain with potentially our third and final map. But that's going to come right after this break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more here for some Friday night Overwatch. Some action being brought your way here at this late time of the night, depending on where you're at in the world. But today we got ourselves a match of honor so far. And while we have seen a couple of moments of brilliance so far, it has very much been the whim of Upsal Vibes pushing forward, already sitting at match point, hoping to collect their first win of the season. And Shadowfang, we talked about it, briefly while we were over the rec right now. Tormenting Tentacles, having ideas at some point, having these breakthrough moments, but being able to utilize them is what's going to give them an opportunity in this situation. Because if there's one thing we know about push, it can get very out of hand very quickly.
No, it absolutely can. And Tormenting Tentacles, they're just missing a little bit of coordination. That's really the key here. They have these moments where they have it, and you can see where there's potential for them to be a good team. But I mean, you were saying this in the break, but I think you've got to ban out a tank here if you're Tormenting Tentacles. And at this point, it kind of has to be the Sigma. That's like all you've seen so far. All right, Winston. Fair enough. That works too.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. You know, you protect the ball in the situation. Winston is honestly a fair character to run on a good amount of these push maps, so I don't hate it. So now this is the first chance that Upsal Vibes could choose to ban a DPS, which you yourself, Shadowfang, was very adamant that Sombra should be the primary pick. And after seeing this, I think I 100% agree.
So it's either got to be Sombra or you control even harder and pick Mercy. But Sombra, there you go. That had to be the pick. Vinsiri was getting early kills over and over again in the backline on Paraiso. That's one of the primary reasons that Tormenting Tentacles was moving. So now it's like, okay, you're taking away that early pick potential. What's your next punch, Tormenting Tentacles? What is that next thing that you can try and do now?
Well, a couple things come to mind. One is that you get them back over on the Diva. I think without having to run into the Winston in the situation, Diva can have a fair amount of value. But the question is, what is waiting for you on the other side as well? Because obviously, if we're walking into something like a Zarya, like a Queen, even something like a Roadhog, which would be hilarious, but is very possible in the world of Overwatch 2, which we live. But now you lose that on the combination you had before of the ball and the Sombra. So I don't know if you can even run the ball to its maximum potential anymore.
Well, and Ram's back online too. So let's not forget that Ram is another option. So if you're Upsal Vibes and you want to run that pure brawl, you really can do it now with the Ramatra having these cleaving punches. Tormenting Tentacles keeps trying to run this Baptiste. There's not much that's stopping, from what I've seen so far at least. Tormenting Tentacles has not played heroes that can really stop Ramatra from just running down a Baptiste and just sending it to them.
Yeah, again, not a ton of synergy when it comes to that backline specifically. More so within the heroes themselves. We've kind of seen the utilization of Oops All Vibes running something, like that Kiriko Lucio, which obviously for quite some time was kind of the go-to when you're running a brawl composition of simply using that. Even if you're running a dive, honestly, that is also a good pair to kind of go with. But when you're running something like the Bap and the Mercy, that's something I would run if you're running like a poke composition right there. That's something I play with like an Ashe and a Sigma, something like that. It's not something I would run with a Sombra and a Ball or a Diva in particular. But at this point, we kind of mentioned it before, you have to adjust as the series goes on. At this point, you just have to try something and hope it sticks.
Yeah, just honestly pick some comfort heroes. Moira's back online again. We might see some more Moira Lucio rush. That seemed to be what Tormenting Tentacles wants to play. So, and I think that'll work significantly better on this map. Especially if you can manage to get to Moira's second perk tier. Having that insta burst with the orb healing is actually really nice. It helps out a bunch.
Yeah, it really does in that situation. A lot of these perks can have this amazing sense of value when you get to them. So of course, getting things started, it's not going to be there, and depending on who you're playing and what the style is, it may take a while to get there. So it's a scenario where you want to do everything in your power to stop things from getting out of hand, because suddenly you get that major perk online. It's like, all right, we got exactly what you want, but you're 60-70 meters behind, and now you have to mount a big comeback, which, to be fair, we have seen it before. We have seen it how many times before, where it's like, man, they're down 80, 90, 100 meters. How is that ever going to happen? I played a comp game the other day. We were down 133 meters, and for whatever reason, we came back and won. I don't know how it happens, but this is just the nature of push. It is never over. It doesn't. I don't care if that says 130-0. It is not over until a timer hits 0 or we see that completion screen. So either way, curious to see what we're to see from both sides, especially from Oops All Vibes, because I imagine they might keep a similar look.
Well, it's looking like we're seeing this Diva Farah with some Ashe and a Bab Mercy. So this is fascinating.
This is something I love. This brings a tear to this old man. Oh, I can't. I'll call myself old. Why not? But I like to see it. But unfortunately, all of my joy has now been sucked from my body as we go back over to the ball. Oops All Vibe is just going to match the ball?
Yeah, we got ball v ball out here. And not to mention, we've got Moira Lifeweaver. We're seeing an unironic Lifeweaver right now. I don't think I've ever seen this before.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting right now as, Nelly, that is not the way you want to start the fight. Your Tormenting Tentacles, but for Oops All Vibes, you couldn't have hoped for anything more right here as, going to take this first fight with a relative amount of each that is, Vixian, unfortunately, that is, I don't know if that's going to stop happening or not, as the rest of the team's going to get wiped away, and Oops All Vibe are going to lose one body after all this, but unfortunately, it's still going to result in a fight being lost.
Vinsiri does get the late kill there onto No My Name's Jeff, and now here we are, Vixian just out in the back line, just no fade available. Cart is going to get stalled a little bit. I'm not sure what's happening right now. This is a very interesting turn of events, though.
I mean, with you taking out the trade, I don't hate it, but now you've lost your character, the main source of healing, and now you still have the utter chaos that is the Tracer, Moira, and Ball that could very easily burn anything, but unfortunately, they're so separated to the point where they can't really protect one another in that situation. That's kind of the glory you get out of that, is having a support line that can help each other out in a DPS that can at least kind of help the backline, but unfortunately, you're not really getting either of these things in this situation currently.
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with you here. Striker doing such a great job on this cast right now, just getting kill after kill after kill. And here we are basically at checkpoint. I think, yeah, the checkpoint did go through, and you got a few ultimates online now, but I'm just curious how they're going to get used, because everybody is just all over the place right now.
Yeah, not looking at it right now as got that checkpoint and moving forward with that right now. 65 meters and counting, and things are being wiped away very quickly. Only 2 minutes in, but already it's becoming desperation territory. As I mean, just people are struggling to even make it out of the spawn room in this situation right here. Is I mean, Striker just having a ball of a time now.
No, absolutely. Anytime you just catch a tracer out like that with a dead eye, you're pretty happy about it. Strider probably going to minefield this spawn door. That's probably what I would do in this situation, just because. But, and there, oh, hold on. Here we go. Some ultimates coming out from Tormenting Tentacles. This is what we like to see.
Yeah, stopping the bleeding right now, so to speak. 105 meters, very much there, but still 7 minutes on that clock. It is a ton of time to still work with right now to kind of chip away. Problem is, though, Shadowfang, there's a lot of ultimates on the other side of things.
No, there absolutely is. Starting off with that minefield, but you've got the blade, you got beat, and you have a Kitsune rush, and you're not going to need all of those things because Tormenting Tentacles has no response for any of these ultimates right now.
Yeah, so it's going to be the question as to see how they want to try to use these, and as things say right now, might not want to use them outside of those mines, and it very much looks like that's going to be shut down right then and there. Th3 hanging around in the situation as well, but eventually will be deleted as Deathscruff just is going to have to back out as, I mean, ball racing. We're playing Super Monkey Ball out here. That's just what we're playing now. We have swapped games, ladies and gentlemen, as Boss going to start heading back the other way and will reclaim the checkpoint.
They will get their forward spawn back online. Striker about to come up on this Deadeye once again. Yeah, I mean, nothing really close for the side of Tormenting Tentacles outside of maybe this copy from the Frog.
Yeah, right now, running for their life right now is My Name is Jeff. Right now, a blade comes online. Gonna try to hack and slash away. Gonna get at least one in the situation. Beacon to be engaged as well, just to make sure everybody will stay up in this scenario right now, as things are looking very bad right now, as that meterage will start to go up once again, looking to get a couple of those final blows coming through. Eventually will come online at 110 and counting. Trying to find a couple of final blows, and support's going to escape, but now we got realistically one more fight to make it happen. Shadowfang bodies need to force their way onto touch right now. 3 meters, 2 meters. Copy's gonna come online onto the gas here right now. Needs to try to find something right now. Dill's managed to get one pick, but they're still falling one at a time right now. Beak going to come online. It is just 3 bodies trying to survive to get everybody back right now. Mine's very much online. It's going to have to be invested to try to make something happen, and with the other ball going down, it looks like they will stem the bleeding for the time being, but the bleeding is not going to win you the map. You need to start winning back-to-back fights.
Oh, absolutely. And you really need to make sure you catch out this kill. That's something you really needed. And now you're going to get to at least midpoint here. There is still 5 minutes, right? So there's a lot of time, but that can't happen right there. You cannot lose Deathscruff like that. That is unacceptable.
Yeah, definitely so right now, as Striker does end up going down early, so creates a 4v4 situation right now, as Missouri actually doing a fair amount over on the Venture for the time being right now, but now you've lost out on both supports in the scenario. It's getting a little rough to kind of deal with right now, as also Venturi doesn't have the ability to go underground or move around for a fair few seconds here. Could be what is used to utilize to take care of them, but at the very least, Tormenting Tentacles doing a good job of keeping themselves in this fight, even without the supports. But unfortunately, the longer it goes on, obviously, as you can see, the worse it is going to be. So again, if you can't win those back-to-back fights, I mean, we're basically going to see what we just saw for the last 4 minutes for another 4 minutes.
No, absolutely. They're just kind of going back and forth, back and forth. One fight. Striker getting another kill. My Name Jeff having this blade available, but not really a solid target to go on just yet, with Deathscruff being the only one alive for Tormenting Tentacles at the moment.
Yeah, it's not looking great right now. Frog going to be taken out. Gonna try to get that away again. It is very much within that 1 fight distance. If you just go with the Deadeye and that blade, it could be as simple as ending that right there, and just not missing a single shot. Strider decided they wanted a day at the shooting range, want to end this thing right here and right now. And with bodies hanging around in the room, only a couple are remaining, and we're going to see that bot start getting pushed in further and further. And ladies and gentlemen, it ends in dominant fashion, just as it went throughout the rest of the series. Oops All Vibes will collect that first win of the season. We'll take that glory today. We'll be able to at least hang their hat on that much, but Tormenting Tentacles, unfortunately, once again, remain without a win upon the season. An unfortunate situation, but it was going to happen to somebody today.
Yeah, absolutely. Oops All Vibes showing that They have been a really good team this season. They just haven't quite been able to get over the hump to being one of those really top tier playoff type teams, but they've been very, very close in several matches. So it definitely makes sense that it ended up going this way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that previous success in terms of going against these teams and having these kind of close moments, obviously just coming into culmination in the situation for Oops All Vibes. So, like I said, gets that first win of the season. It doesn't necessarily really mean anything in terms of the overall picture with the top 8, in terms of that will be the eventual playoff group. But it could mean something, with next week's situation, because both these teams, I believe, going up against teams that are very much in that kind of fringe-like area where it could matter. So I think especially for Tormenting Tentacles, who want to try to finish out on a win, I mean, that's a team that's going to be as hungry as possible in that last matchup. And for Oops All Vibes, I mean, you gotta be happy you get yourself a win here. Maybe you get to finish with that momentum and get a back-to-back situation. At the very least, finish strong.
No, absolutely. You want to end up on the most positive vibes possible, leaving the season, potentially heading into next season if you're deciding to play again. So that's really the best you can hope for. So great game tonight from Oops All Vibes. And Tormenting Tentacles had their good moments, but they just need to string them together more consistently.
Yeah, 100%. But we'll see what will be in store for both these teams in that last week of competition coming up here. But for the time being, we're going to cut it to another break because, as always, we got a nice interview set up from one of the members of Oops All Vibes. So be a few minutes away from that. So see you on the other side of this break.
Got lots of love. Got lots of love. Got lots of love. Love. Got lots of love. Love. Got lots of love. Love.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to the other side of our competition here today. Ended up being a rather dominant one. Oops All Vibes taking that first win of the season, making things happen in that competition against Tormenting Tentacles. And surprise, we got ourselves a camera interview. It feels rare nowadays to see. In fact, it always has been kind of rare. But joining us over on the side of Oops All Vibes, it is Zach. And Zach, I mean, hey, all things considered, congratulations on this win here today.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Obviously, not the whole season of what y'all would have hoped for going to the situation, but just in this situation after what y'all have gone to the season, I just kind of want to know how this win feels like.
You know, it feels good. This one's for pride. This one's for our mentals and for everyone that's kind of stuck it through with my my crazy shenanigans. Got it done.
Well, all right. What do you think had you firing on all cylinders so well tonight? Because it just seemed like you couldn't make any mistake whatsoever. So, like, how'd you feel about that?
Honestly, shout out to Diamond Eagles for helping warm us up. They were phenomenal, and it was just one of those. Okay, we took a close series, week 5 against BGSU on stream. That one kind of came down to a heartbreaker by maps 4 and 5, and we said, all right, lock in, get a win on the board, and play for pride.
All right. Well, yeah. I think you did a great job of that so far. And with that being said, looking forward to next week. What are your thoughts going into the match next week to finish the season out?
We're taking it one match at a time. Just come in, have fun, play with our newer roster. Just like play together and make it work.
Definitely see if that's the case or not. Actually, with you going up against Phantoms, you guys are in a very interesting position to actually potentially play spoiler to this team and knock them out if things were to go your way. But obviously, y'all have been able to face off against some great teams throughout the season as well. So from your own perspective, I would like to know, who do you think is going to win the NA Diamond Division? Out of who you've seen, who you faced, who do you think is going to take it all?
I mean, we played them last season in the grand finals. We saw them take a very dominant victory in mid-season this season. If I had to predict it, it would be Solar Eclipse going all the way, but I can see some upset going through.
You know, 100% been some great teams performing throughout the season. But again, something we'll have to see down the line here in a little bit. But Zach, once more, congrats on that big win here. Obviously, best of luck with that last week of competition. Hope y'all finish strong, and obviously go enjoy yourselves, because with today's performance, y'all 100% deserve it.
Thank you.
All right, have yourself a good one now.
Thank you, you too.
All right, well, Shadowfang, there you have it. There you are. I realize they're still in here and healing me, but I will compliment anyway. I love the vibes of that situation. I realize the team is very much called Oops All Vibes, but that is very much that is very much a vibe of an interview right there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like the cheerful disposition. Everything hasn't quite gone your way, but you're still just like, hammering it out anyways. You're like, no, we're still here. We're gonna keep putting forth our best effort. Even going so far as to do a warm-up scrim before the match. Like, you love to see it throughout the season, even if it's just for pride at this point.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to see what that could bring them, because when I was talking earlier about them being able to play spoiler, it's a very real situation, because you have teams like Phantom Space Train and BGSU Falcons. I can't say their name. They're like 15 minutes down the road, and I cannot say their name. But either way, all those teams are hanging around that 3-3, 3-4 area. So if Phantoms were to lose and things went well for the other two teams, I mean, there's every possibility they could play spoiler in this situation. And I'll do a bit of analysis really quick on if Tormenting Tentacles have that same potentiality here. As I mean, technically yes, technically it exists, but in a much less capacity. But either way, you know what? I could go on for days about all the intricacies of what goes on in the NA Diamond Division and everything. But you're gonna have to find out about that at a different day, whether that's on the breakdown or whether that's in an upcoming matchup. Because Shadowfang, I say this all the time, and I wish we could simply do the whole thing right here and now and start the playoffs at this moment. We have not the lung capacity nor the time to be able to do so right now.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. But yeah, we're getting close. We got one more week of games, then it's going to be playoff time. So it's right around the corner.
Yep, 100% is. But of course, appreciate y'all joining us here on this this late evening in the situation. Make sure to enjoy the weekend coming forth, because obviously we got more CGL action coming throughout the rest of the weekend. A lot of games that are going to have very big stakes when it comes to that playoff picture and to the seeding picture as well between all of our divisions in both NA, EU, and of course South America as well. But for the time being, I'm Hunter Tane. It's your Shadowfang. Big thanks to Echo for producing, and Warner for being able to observe as well. So for the rest of y'all, hope you'll have a good night, enjoy a great weekend of Overwatch, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
I'm not crazy, Malin. I'm